Hi guys, it's Didi here, and today's video I want to talk to you about 3 books that I've been reading recently and I really enjoyed, and I think you're gonna enjoy them too. These are books that made me think a lot about certain behaviors that I exhibit in my life, certain beliefs that I have and new ones that I want to adapt. And these are books that are quite worth revisiting and also extensive note-taking. So the first book is The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. Josh Waitzkin is considered a chess prodigy, and he has perfected learning strategies that can be applied to anything, including his other loves for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where he has a black belt, and Tai Chi, where he is a world champion. Now he is a coach and he's coaching world top performers and high-profile investors. Josh Waitzkin was the basis for the book and the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. So I was introduced to Josh Waitzkin from Tim Ferriss' podcast. He has been his guest, I think, twice now, and he showed up on his podcast very early on. I really like the interview with him. I really like the way he thinks. He has such a depth of thoughts when he speaks, and it made me research him, listen to other talks that he has been given in different settings. There are lots of things you can find on YouTube. He started his love affair with chess when he was only 6 years old. His mom was taking him to the playground in Washington Square Park when he saw the chess players. He stopped watching them, observing them. He really liked how they played, and one of the chess players asked him, "Do you want to try?" And his mom excused himself and said, "No, he doesn't know how to play." But Josh sat in front of this guy and he started playing with him, and he said that just the game came out somewhere from within. He didn't know how to play, but obviously he knew how to play. So from that moment on, he became really obsessed with chess. He would spend hours and hours a day studying combinations, studying the end game, not only the opening game. And in the book, you can follow his journey from finding his passion for chess, then finding his passion for Tai Chi, which helped him lots with mental clarity, and then with Jiu-Jitsu. As Josh says, he found out that his love for chess is not only love for chess, it's actually love for learning. And there is art to learning, and there are certain things that we can do to accelerate our learning. So some of the main points in the book that resonated with me were about growth. He says growth is always outside of our comfort zone, something which we all know is the case. Every time when we challenge ourselves, when we stretch ourselves, we explore more and more of our abilities. He also talks about entity versus incremental intelligence, which is the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset in Carol Dweck's terminology, and how detrimental to the learning process is if we install fixed mindsets to our kids, or if we are the owners of fixed mindset. He also talks about taking the long-term view, even in a chess play game or whatever we do in life, versus the short-term wins, which sometimes seems to us much more appealing. One of the things I really liked that he talked about is how we need to find the mental clarity immediately after an error. And it's not only applying to chess or any game we play, it applies to everything in our life, because quite often when we do a mistake, instead of taking a step back and revisiting our behavior or why we did the mistake, we are too emotional to do that. We don't gain back our mental clarity, and that leads to the downward spiral. One of the things he talked about is how he trained himself not to pay attention to any distractions and get to this mental clarity regardless of the circumstances around him. For example, sometimes when he was playing, he would find out that a certain song will come up to his mind and he will lose focus. And then he started to train himself under very distracting circumstances. Even he said he'll keep a chaotic environment at home, so everything will be a chaos, so that he can train himself despite the chaos to keep the mental clarity and to do the things that he needs to do. It really helped me the other day. I was working from the gym cafeteria. It was Saturday, very, very noisy, lots of people around me. On the same table that I shared, someone was with a loud voice talking on Skype for, I think, an hour and a half. And about 3 times I was wondering, okay, maybe it's time for me to move, find a quieter corner, although it was noisy everywhere. And then I said, okay, that's not what Josh would have done. I cannot let distractions around me drive how I'm doing my work. So I forced myself and I stayed. And the fact is, if you decide to do that and you take a decision, it really helps. I recommend you guys to get this book. It's great and it's beautifully written. Josh is a super intelligent guy. He always talks about how superficial our knowledge is in many areas of our lives. We go for quantity rather than quality, and how much he prefers focus on certain things and depth over breadth. So go and get the book. I think you'll really enjoy it. And now my second book. The second book I've been reading just came out recently. It's from one of my favorite human beings in the world called James Altucher. James Altucher is a famous podcaster, investor, avid chess player as well, and he's also the writer of over a dozen books, one of which is the Choose Yourself. With the Choose Yourself, he created a whole movement all over the world. There are people who are reading it, following it, creating meetups, and really follow the advice that he gives in the book, which is about how we can be better in every area in our lives. So I love everything that James does. I love his writing style, I love his vulnerability, his honesty. He always tackles big themes and big problems that most people don't want to even know about, and he throws bombs all the way, such as why you shouldn't send your child to college, why you should not pay your debt, why you should not own a house. And the way he writes is very unique, with lots of wisdom. He writes taking inspiration from his own life, but also from many other people who he meets. He also has a really good podcast, and that allows him to interview the people who he wants to interview. It gives him access to some really high profile, top quality people, and he can ask them any question he wants. Reinvent Yourself is his new book. He published it about 10 days ago. It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it to you because it's full of wisdom and it's very easy to read. It reminds me a lot of the Tools of Titans that Tim published last month, in the sense of that James takes the lessons that he learned from different mentors, including through people who have not been on his podcast, but people who he met in his life, or bosses, or first girlfriends, or girls at school he was trying to take out on a date. And he distills the information, presents what the lesson was for him, and give it in this book. So in the book, he talks about how we have to reinvent ourselves, but we have to recognize that there is a huge change coming up in the world, that the world as we know it, the corporate world especially, is not going to exist for far long now, and that we need to make sure that we get the freedom we want in our lives, which means multiple income sources, for example, which means different things for different people, but at least we need to identify what that is for us. And that also we need to make sure we deepen our relationships, because that's what counts at the end, and what sort of daily habits and practices we have in place. Are they empowering or they're destructive for us? So reinvent yourself is something which you don't do once. I reinvented myself, that's it, job done. It's something which you do every day and you incorporate it in your daily practice. Reinventing yourself is different for different people. You have to find out what is it for you, and it's not easy. But it's never late to start reinventing yourself, and the best time to start is not tomorrow, it is today. James finishes the book with the lessons he learned from chess. He's an avid chess player. He started late in his life when he was 17 years of age, and then he said that chess brought him his first girlfriend and landed his first job. Within the lessons he learned from chess, he says it taught him how to learn. And he says, and it's not about doing the same thing for 10,000 hours, which potentially will bring you to mastery. It's how you learn. You may do the same thing 10,000 hours, but if you don't grow, if you don't learn new things, if you don't make your game better, this is not really learning. Then he says chess taught him how to lose. When he started losing his first games, he was desperate. He was throwing things in his hotel room. He was getting depressed. It was really hard for him to accept the loss. Something similar happened to Josh Waitzkin as well. He said when he lost his first game, he was depressed for a pretty long time, and it took him time to start appreciating the process rather than the end result itself. James talked about the same thing. It's not about the game, whether you lose it or don't, it's how many lessons you learned on the way. And then he says it taught him how to play. Sometimes we tend to give up on things when they get really hard. He says sometimes even at the end of the game, when it all lost its hope that you may win, if you're still there, if you're still concentrated, if you're still doing your work, you may win. He says, I love chess, and when you love something, find the same thing that you love in your life, because when you love something and you're ready to read 1,000 books on something, you very easily create communities. You add value to a community, and then you help the community grow, and the community helps you back as well, because evolutionary, we human beings are not supposed to live in an isolated life. As we all know, we are part of a group and we are there to help the group, and the group is there to help us become better individuals. Which very nicely led me to the third book I want to recommend you guys, and the third book is called Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging by Sebastian Junger. Sebastian is a war journalist. He's the #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Perfect Storm, Fire, A Death in Belmont, War and Tribe. And as an award-winning journalist, a contributing editor to Vanity Fair and a special correspondent at ABC News, he has covered major international news stories around the world. Junger is also a documentary filmmaker whose debut as a co-director in the film Restrepo, a feature-length documentary, was nominated for an Academy Award and won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. So if you want to gain a better understanding of tribal societies, human nature and behavior, post-traumatic stress disorder, I really recommend you to read this book. I found this book very thought-provoking and interesting to read. It's controversial as well. Lots of the things he wrote, a lot of critics do not agree with, but for sure it will make you think about certain things. So I suggest you read it, and you read it with an open mind. So Sebastian took lots of interest in the tribal lives and what are the things in a tribe that make the life there so appealing versus the life in the so-called civilized world. And he did a research on the Native Americans and how even when their kids were taken by the American colonists and have been raised with them, the first minute when they have the chance and the opportunity to go back to their tribes, they would want to go back and stay there. And not necessarily the opposite will happen. And he talks about the increase of mental disease within the westernized world, and that potentially one of the reasons for that it could be the lack of purpose. He talks about the fact that during disasters, during really tough times, for example, the Second World War, these disasters made people experience the friendship, fellowship in a way that we hardly experience nowadays in our lives, and how these disasters can actually help people thrive. It's a very controversial subject. As he says, it's not that people should want to have wars, but is that during wars something happens in a community, in society, in groups that makes people discard authorities and power and make them self-organize in a way that's not chaotic at all. Sebastian is a journalist and he writes very well. He supports his writing with lots of research as well, and he talks a lot about how in very tough situations we are actually able to thrive because we feel we have much more purpose than otherwise. In a big part of the book he tackles the issues with the war veterans who, when they come back home, they don't really feel integrated anymore, and many of them do not want to drop out the memories that they have from the war moments and the fellowship that they experience with their buddies at war. This fits nicely in another book that I've been reading recently, which is The Body Keeps the Score, which talks a lot about the post-traumatic stress disorder. He says one of the reasons why they're not integrated is that the population and society look at them as they are victims, and when you look at someone as if they're victims, sooner or later you become to feel as a victim, and they don't feel that they're needed, they don't feel that they have purpose. And at the same time, what happens is that during big wars, for example, the Second World War, the whole nation is at war. And when the whole nation is at war, you know what's going on. It's on your doorstep. So you can feel the pain that your soldiers are going through. When the soldiers nowadays go at wars, they don't fight close to the country where they are. They fight far, far, far away, and the society does not really have the empathy and the understanding of what they're going through. It's a very interesting book, guys. I recommend you to read it. As I said, you may not like half of the things that you read, but you may like them for sure. For me, I feel that I believe lots of the things he say, and I feel that they are a good reflection of reality. As Sebastian Junger says, the point of journalism is to tell the truth. It is not to improve society. There are facts and truths that feel regressive, but that doesn't matter. The point of journalism isn't to make everything better. It's to give people accurate information about how things are. So these are the 3 books I've been reading recently. The reason I did this video was that many of you are asking me all the time, sending me texts and emails, can you tell us what you read and what you watch? I don't watch much, but I read a lot, and this is what I've been reading over the last weeks. The interesting thing as well is that Sebastian Junger turned out to be a good friend of Josh Waitzkin, which shows us that the world is a small place. Talking about friendship, if you like this video, if you want to be my friend, give me a thumb up, subscribe for my channel, subscribe for my Instagram as well, Didi Aurelia. I would love to see you there. It's the easiest way to send me questions. And please give me your book recommendations in the comment box below. I would love to see what are you reading, what are the things that you like, and of course I'm always open to new ideas and new things that would open my mind. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a beautiful week, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye guys!